If you are looking for some simple and effective and evidence-based strategies to calm your anxiety or decrease your anxiety so you can find some relief, then you're in the right place. When it comes to calming our anxiety or decreasing the anxiety that you feel on a daily basis, you really don't need anything too fancy. You just need to know a little bit about what anxiety is and how it presents in your life. And the other crucial piece is knowing how your brain, your body, and your nervous system communicate with each other. My last two educational types of videos did talk about what anxiety is and how it can look, how it can present in your body in daily life. And today we're going to be talking about how our brain, our body, our nervous system communicate with each other so we can learn how to work with our body rather than just always trying to avoid the anxiety that we experience or try to get rid of it in general. Which, don't get me wrong, these are normal go-to responses that we have, this tendency to avoid and just kind of eliminate any discomfort, but they're not necessarily effective for actually reducing the anxiety that you feel on a daily basis. So first and foremost, let's just talk a little bit about how our brain, our nervous system, our body kind of communicate with each other. And when we start talking about this, we're gonna introduce something called our vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in our body, and it connects to all of the major organs and muscle groups and our nervous system as well. There are certain things that can stimulate this vagus nerve, and when this vagus nerve gets stimulated, it calms down our body. It sends safety signals, so to speak, to our brain, to our fear center, this little thing called the amygdala. And when it does this, it's kind of saying, hey, we're actually okay, we're actually safe here. You can slow your roll when it comes to those fight or flight responses. It's also important to note here that we cannot just talk ourselves out of the anxiety that we experience because of how our brain is wired and how the structures in our brain communicate with each other, specifically the amygdala and the cortex. Our cortex is where kind of our quote unquote like logical thought is held, and our amygdala is the fear center. The ability of our cortex to send signals to our amygdala when we are in a super anxious state is just not there, because we don't want to be able to talk ourselves out of an actual threat. So we can't necessarily talk ourselves out of feeling anxious, even if there's somewhere in our brain that goes, man, I know that I'm not actually in danger here, but I keep telling myself I shouldn't be anxious. There's no reason to be anxious, and yet I'm still anxious. That's why that continues to happen. Using our cortex, or trying to use our thoughts in this way to kind of calm our anxiety or to see other perspectives as we're processing anxiety, really only helps us out if we are experiencing low levels of anxiety, or if we're in a calm state and we're just kind of reflecting back on a time when we were feeling anxious. And this kind of helps us to reprocess, what was going on? How did I respond? And it just gives us a different way to look at our own response to the situation that led to feeling anxious. So when it comes to actually being in a heightened state of anxiety, so rather than kind of lower levels of anxiety, we're talking about maybe like a 7, 8, 9, 10 on a rating scale of 0 to 10. When we are in that heightened anxiety state, we're gonna need something called a bottom-up approach. And this is where that vagus nerve really comes in handy. A few of the ways that we can activate or stimulate our body's vagus nerve, therefore calming our anxiety and sending those safety signals to our fear center, to our amygdala, is breathing strategies. These come in really, really handy when we're trying to send those safety signals and just feel a sense of calm in our body. So I have a couple of videos on breathing strategies in general. I will link them here for you guys and also in the description, but you're looking for something to elongate our exhale, maybe make our exhale twice as long as our inhale. And also if you incorporate some pauses in whatever breathing strategy you have. So let's say you inhale to the count of 3 or 4, maybe you have a pause at the top of that breath, and then you exhale to the count of like 6 or 8. You can also find pauses when we are practicing something called box breathing. I have actually a couple of meditations that just guide you through some box breathing too. So again, I will link all of these things in the description, so they're pretty easy to access for you, and I hope that that is helpful. But again, if you elongate your exhale and if you incorporate some pauses, but again, just listen to your own body as you're going through this. We don't want you to get lightheaded here or anything like that. So just trust your intuition here, trust your gut instinct. I know that can be difficult sometimes, but those signals are there for you. So just listen to your body and go through some of those practices and see what you notice. And actually, before we go any farther with any of these other strategies or techniques, it's important to note that when we are using these bottom-up processes or just grounding techniques, calming techniques in general, it does take time. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes of actively using these techniques for us to start feeling any sense of calm in our body. So as you're going through these, either practicing a breathing technique or, we're going to talk about meditation and some of these other things, as you're going through them, just know that it's going to take some time for you to actually feel less anxious than you did when maybe you started that or whatever the case might be. This doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong or that the strategies that you're engaging in are ineffective. It's just your body takes some time to go from a state of, oh my gosh, there's all of this danger around me, what am I going to do, how am I going to protect myself, and moved into a state of calm and just generally feeling peaceful and able to connect with others. That process just takes some time. I know we like these quick fixes and we want that anxiety and that discomfort to go away immediately, but it's just not going to happen. Another strategy that can be very helpful is practicing mindfulness or practicing meditation. There is a big reason that I, write and record and post these meditations on this channel, because meditation can be so very effective for helping us to feel calm, helping us to feel safe, and it helps to regulate our nervous system, meaning that we can, get into a place of feeling safe and feeling calm quicker than maybe we have previously if we do experience some type of nervous system dysregulation where it feels really, really difficult to access any sort of calm. And actually, there's a lot of studies that show that in just 6 to 8 weeks of a regular meditation practice, you can start to see actual brain changes that lead to improved emotion regulation as well as decreased anxiety and improved mood. Another thing that's going to be really beneficial for us if we do tend to find ourselves being anxious on an everyday basis, we just need to find ways of calming our body and releasing that stress, essentially. So this can be lifting weights, working out, going running, just anything that you can find to be a stress relief for you can be very, very beneficial. This helps us to basically get rid of any excess stress in our body that builds and builds and builds, right? If we are not expelling that stress on a regular basis through exercise or whatever methodology of stress relief works best for you, if we're not doing that, that stress just stays in our body. And so finding a way to expel that stress on a regular basis is going to be quite crucial. And lastly, let's just practice being kind to our brain by staying hydrated, getting quality rest as much as possible, eating good, nutritious foods, and getting some movement into our daily routine, and of course, getting some fresh air. These things are simple, but they are effective. If we don't have a baseline of just caring for our body, it is more likely that we're going to experience mental health issues, including anxiety. If you guys are wanting some additional tips specific for calming anxiety and all of that good stuff, I do have this free resource for you guys. I will make sure to link it in the description, and it just gives you a couple of foundational things, some of which that we've talked about today, and it just dives in a little bit deeper to the why behind why some of these things are actually effective. And so hopefully that resource can be helpful for you guys. Again, I will link it in the description, and I hope this video in general has been helpful and this topic has been helpful. If it has, just let me know by hitting that like button. Take care, and I'll see you guys in my next video.